He lives in Ohio, but often found elsewhere. And he's Ohio's 25,796th favorite son. Passing the torch with Blake Stilwell starts now. First and foremost, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. We were talking earlier. It's really great to be here. I don't get asked to do many podcasts, especially one like this.
Yeah, I appreciate just the time. So you're the 25,796 or 25,000, whatever how you say it, favorite son. I know who 795 is.
Oh yeah,
It's me. I
no.
just became an Ohio resident last week.
Oh,
So,
congratulations!
yeah.
Welcome to the family. Yeah. So when things like that, when you're writing your own bio, like I'm a kind of a humble guy. I don't like really tout myself all that much. And you list all these things you've done and all the degrees you have and yada yada yada, and you just want to end with something funny and pithy to like tell people like I'm a real person and
Yeah.
I'm not really comfortable like touting my successes like that. So you just come up with whatever you can. I figure 25,000 something is probably about right. I'm not the lowest, but I'm also, we had some presidents, some astronauts.
Where's John Legend in that list?
Oh God, way higher than me.
Top
I
five.
mean, yeah. I mean, he's probably Springfield's most famous resident, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would go John Glenn, you, and then in terms of Ohio's favorite son, John Glenn, and then you, and then maybe John Legend.
I think there's probably a lot of in between me and John Glenn and John Legend. Man, that guy's no. Springfield loves him. He and Chrissy Teigen are like the king and queen of Springfield.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm yeah, they're above. But it's not really a contest. It's just I'm just happy to be among the ranked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most important question: have your parents seen any of your work, or is that still? Are they still have?
Yeah, so if you're listening and you don't know, I used to tell people, and on my bio, I used to have my parents have never seen my work, and no, I mean it was mostly for my video work because when I write combat cameraman or combat photographer, but because some people don't get it when you say combat videographer.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, my parents never. I don't think my parents ever saw any of my video production work, or if they did, they didn't know it because at the White House, I was, I worked for the White House side, and it was more of, you do stuff for the news, you do stuff for the National Archives, you did stuff for the president's staff, or things like that. It was not like creative work. So if I edited something, it would air on like CBS News at Sundays at 7 in the morning or something like that. Yeah. So I don't think they ever saw it. No. But I like to think that they probably read my work either on purpose or by accident, some way. Yeah.
They'll message you like, "Hey, there's this great writer that lives in Dayton who wrote an article about the military," and it's like,
I do get that a lot. I get people sharing my work that are my friends, and I get people sharing things on social media. And my parents talk about. I've heard my parents talk about articles that their friends sent them, and I'm just like, that sounds really familiar. I think did I write that one? And it makes me think like, wow, people don't really pay attention to
they
violence at
don't.
all. No. Unless it's like something more personality driven, like I think Deadspin was a
Yeah,
good
yeah, yeah.
example of
That's a
something
good.
that was
Yeah.
more personality driven, or the old school crack.com, and I love those websites. So yeah, I think no one pays attention anyway, so I don't take it too hard.
I pay attention. I've read quite a few of your articles, and
Well, thanks.
yeah,
Keep those clicks. I love that.
to me, it's we were talking a little bit before recording. Are you a big sports fan?
Yes, I am. I didn't grow up a sports fan, but I became one while I was in the military. uh love football. Started with college football, the Buckeyes, because if you're from Ohio, you're pretty much indoctrinated from a young age.
My new favorite letters are OH now.
Yeah, someone will invariably yell IO. But yeah, and then I got into NFL football, and of course, when I was a kid, my next door neighbor really loved the Bengals, so I adopted the Bengals. And my dad, he's a Browns fan, he just hates it. He actually sent me this note he wrote when I first started watching NFL football. It says, somehow my son became a low life Bengals fan. Yeah. But it plays out in healthy ways in the family. We watch the Battle of Ohio twice a year together, and
Yeah.
it's just fun rivalry.
the reason I brought that up is your writing reminds me of. So I love Bill Simmons, big fan of his work, and like a lot of your writing makes me think of Grantland. I don't know if you remember like their website where it blended
Yeah.
sports and pop culture to where you're very good at, like for example, a big thing with video, YouTube videos, or even a podcast, people say got to have a hook, in the first 30 seconds, or if you're posting something to Instagram, you got to have a hook. Well, that's eventually the first two sentences of any type of article.
Mhm.
And I mean, there's just, you're great at just kind of catching, like just throwing in some pop reference or some cool reference that, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's good.
Well, you know what's funny about that? I accidentally became a writer. I didn't plan on it. I think the closest I ever took to a writing class was in a public relations writing class in one of my master's programs. But you kind of like learn to go to you just learn writing, and then you start drawing on all these things that you picked up over the years. And the hook in the beginning of an article is not like something new to new media or YouTube or social media or anything like that. You learn that in like fifth grade writing
Yeah.
class. They call it the grabber, like yeah, your subject's attention with some kind of great opening statement, and then there's of course the template of how you're supposed to write a book report in fifth grade. And that's just where I got that idea. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's pretty basic. And it seems to work out for me. So no one ever told me to do differently. So I just keep doing it.
I have to just brag about myself here for a second. I wrote an article maybe 6 years ago. So I'm a huge basketball fan as well.
Yeah.
And it's about Sean Livingston. And I don't know how much you watch basketball at all. But
I bet on DraftKings, and that's about it.
so bottom line, he was he came in the league probably like 05, 06. And there was a big wave of high school players. He was part of that. And he was a 6'7" guard, and just a great, like, hey, this guy's gonna be an amazing player. Well, tore his knee early on in his career and was just never the same.
Yeah.
But he played in the NBA for a long time, and he won a couple of championships with Golden State. And he of course he was never going to be the starter because they have this guy named Steph Curry who seems to be pretty decent at
Oh
basketball.
yeah, I think I heard of him. I think
Yeah.
he's gonna be big. Yeah,
But
he's gonna be big.
but I wrote an article about his resilience, and I called him the comeback kid. But I opened up the article with the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, Lao Tzu, and then I opened up, and then the very next thing was, at least for Sean Livingston, it opens up and I put the measurements of a basketball court, and anyway, but it was just like I got a lot of like good like kudos and feedback about that, and it just kind of made me pay attention to articles more about how to. Anyway, we're not here to talk about me.
Sorry.
So with everything else, why is life great right now?
Why is life great for me? Well, as you mentioned, I just started a new job. I'm the editor in chief of wearethemighty.com.
Awesome.
And, it was like, I just mentioned that I accidentally became a writer, and that was the first writing job that I ever had was for wearethemighty.com. And that was in its earliest days. And anyone unfamiliar with it, David Gale, who was a producer at MTV Films, had the great idea of starting a website by and for military veterans in the world where entertainment and the military meet. And if that sounds very niche, it is very niche, and there's not a lot happening there. But there's an outsized influence that Hollywood has on the rest of the country, and it can do a lot to kind of bridge the gap between civilian life and the military. And most of the time, it doesn't really do that. It can be detrimental, but unintentionally detrimental. People love to tell military stories. I don't think there's an American alive that doesn't support the military in some way. They might question how it's used or it as an instrument of foreign policy, but I think the actual people who serve, I don't think anyone doubts that they go into it with their the best of intentions. So David Gale started this company to try to kind of dispel a lot of Hollywood mythology, maybe be proactive in making things better, or be proactive in making the view of the military evolve in the American culture. And my buddy Mark Harper, he was we served together in the first Combat Camera Squadron way back in 2004, and he was he was the first president, and he helped found Wearethemighty. And he asked me if I would just write articles, fill out content. And I never worked as a writer. At the time, I was a media officer for the Near East Foundation, which is America's oldest international nonprofit development organization. And I was working, doing great things in 8 countries. If you never, I'm going to pop neareast.org real quick. If you've ever wondered how, some people get fed, or, people's villages in the middle of seemingly nowhere get sustainable development, it's organizations like the Near East Foundation.
Near East.
Yeah, they do.
I'll link that.
Thanks. No, they do a lot with very little. They punch way above their weight class, and they're helping people in Sudan, in Israel and Palestine and Morocco and Senegal and Syria, and basically any hot spot you can think of. The Near East Foundation's there. But I was working for them at the time, doing communications and development work, and it's totally unrelated to media. But Harper asked me to just help fill out the website, get something going so that, they could have more robust opportunities in the future. So I did. And eventually they started paying me for it. Eventually they asked me to come work full time. And so, yeah, it seemed like the thing to do. I moved to LA from the Middle East, and I started writing articles and, learning how to be a writer. These things it wasn't easy, but I had Paul Zoldra, who might be familiar with Duffel Blog. Yeah, he was the first editor at Wearethemighty, and he taught me a lot about writing. And if I have any success as a writer, it's probably due to him. Yeah, I forgot what the question was. I'm sorry.
Just why is life great?
Oh, why is life great? Okay, so yeah, because now I have come full circle, and I am back running the website. I am where Paul Zoldra used to be. And, it's not that I didn't love working for military.com. I mean, the people there, they do incredible journalism. They have, some of the most dedicated, thoughtful writers, one of the best editing staffs I've ever worked with. I've evolved a lot just having, spent time with them and learning leadership from great writers like Amy Bouchatz, who left military.com to start local journalism in Alaska. That's an amazing thing. And Jared Keller, he used to work at Task at Purpose. I learned a lot from him as well. And so to come to where I basically learn how to write and, run the site is really flattering, challenging, and so far, it's only been 3 weeks, but it's been really fun too. It's a lot of work, but it's been fun, and it has reignited my passion for media.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny, oh, I'm in charge, so I love it. Like, imagine that, right? But no, it's a lot more creative than that, and I have a great support in my company leadership, and Recurrent is a fantastic company to work for. I have nothing bad to say about it. Again, it's been 3 weeks, so catch me next year and we can talk about it. No, but that's why life is good and fun right now. Yeah.
So one of my early podcast guests was it was an Air Force veteran who worked for We Are the Mighty, or she did videos with him, Shannon Corbet.
Oh, yeah. I love Shannon. So Shannon was there when I was first writing, and she has the most incredible voice for a writer, for a video producer.
Yeah.
And not just that, like, she was able to take my work and translate it to YouTube videos. I could hear my own voice in her work and her narration, and we had a lot of fun living in that role. I would write stuff, she would adapt it, she would host it, and she would have a lot of fun with creating these videos.
That's
and
cool.
She actually just produced a play in Los Angeles. I don't know if you have to bleep this out, but I think it's called Napoleon's Whore Sister. It's a comedy. But yeah, she just learned to write. She just learned to become a playwright. And I was happy to help on her fundraising campaign. I got producer credit. I don't know that I did a lot of producing, but she's a fantastic writer. I even learned a lot about comedy from her.
No, that's cool. So how does you talked about now the editor in chief for We Are the Mighty, you worked for them years ago. How does a self-admitted horrible Hollywood assistant become editor in chief?
All right, so we all get out of the military and we all like look for work, and sometimes does these
You're
things,
preaching to the choir. So
yeah,
yeah.
these things work out better, um, or worse. It depends on who you are and what you try. And if anybody's getting out of the military right now, young, I'm 42. But anyone who's getting out of the military is really young right now. I would just say like you can't really go wrong. It feels like you have all this pressure to get a paycheck and whatever, but like if you don't have a family and it's just you have the power to take some risks, and maybe you should because you have a lot of time to fail and make good on that, make up for it later. So in fact, one of the mantras at old We Are the Mighty when I first worked there was fail fast. We're trying this new thing. Keep trying new things, but if it fails, fail fast and move on to the next thing. So I would, I think it's a pretty good mantra for life. So when I got out of the military, I went right into Syracuse University to study television, radio, film, and it was a great program. And anybody who wants to know more about it can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk about it. But when I got out, my first job was an internship at ABC News, and then I did the NBC Olympics. I worked as an assistant editor for an amazing editor, and I wish I could. Oh, John Alperti. John Alperti was his name. I was like, I wish I could remember his name. No, John Alperti. He was a great guy, and I learned a lot about editing for network television from him, which I've still never done. But then that was in the middle of the global financial crisis, and media is always the first one to start letting people go. So no one was hiring, blah blah blah. I got a great short-term gig working for HBO in Los Angeles, so I moved from New York to LA, and I'd done some work for a show called 24/7 on HBO.
Yes.
About boxers. Yeah.
Was this for the Pacquiao
It was
Mayweather or Mayweather De La Hoya?
no, this was De La Hoya. It might have been De La Hoya Mayweather, but it was definitely De La Hoya. I remember him being the first one. And then I also did Mayweather Marquez, and then I did Pacquiao Marquez, I think.
Yeah, that sounds
But
right. But by the way, 24/7, I watched it. Like, it was great.
Yeah, no, it was a super great show. The crews that work on it. And I am getting to the Hollywood assistant part. So the crews who work on 24/7, they do follow these guys from boxers start working out early on in the morning and, keep working out till sundown. And they're with them every moment of the day. It was my job to take the footage and kind of string it out into a logical format.
Yeah.
Low res version, ship it off to New York and transmit it off to New York. So somehow it got off to New York, but and then the people in New York would like really edit it and colorize it and everything would be ready. And they would do this overnight, like right up till Friday, Monday through Friday, because the show aired on Friday. And then, the boxing match would be on a Saturday, like a month later or 6 weeks later, depending on however long the show started. And it has been, it was so great to watch teams of production professionals work together on, a set. We were in Mexico for some of it, and to watch them do this, because that was exactly what I had done in the military as a combat cameraman. You would deploy with a team of production professionals to some uncontrolled environment, and you'd have to like send footage back. And that was sometimes, during the Iraq War or in Germany or like, wherever else. So I was one of the people who was just like, oh my gosh, you can have military life and civilian life. Like, this is great. Like, I felt really at home with that. Sadly, that didn't last. The global financial crisis really did a number on media. And when I got back to LA, I was struggling for a job, and I got a job as a Hollywood assistant to a producer who was just kind of like overbearing and loud and obnoxious, and I didn't really understand why. It almost seemed like he was doing it on purpose just because he felt like he had to. I don't know. I don't want to name names. It's just it wasn't for me. And this guy talks shit every time I saw him. Every time in the office, and even I saw him a couple years ago. And basically he just called me fat and told me to leave LA. It's like, okay, I did, but like also I wasn't that fat. Anyway,
Can that be the name of this
yeah,
episode?
you
Blake Stilwell was
just
not fat.
just open that, not that fat.
Yeah.
Just open with that line. Yeah. So, but you know, you're sitting there, and that was like, what was that? That was sometime in 2009 or late 2008, I think it was.
Yeah. You
And
talking about the finance crisis? No.
no, I'm talking about my time
Oh, gotcha.
as this assistant. And, you know, I was sitting there like I'm handing out mini muffins to people, like trying to make a show for Pepsi, just integrating brands into television show pitches. And I just felt so dumb. You know, it's probably, I mean, probably everyone in the military has had this epiphany. You know, a year ago, I was like doing something cool in Iraq, and, you know, I actually felt like I was part of a team and helping people. And now I'm handing out mini muffins to someone who's pissed that I don't have cranberry, you know, like it's just, I feel so lame. But yeah, that job didn't work out because I hated it. Like I hated rolling calls, and I hated picking up dry cleaning, and I hated how every time I had to give him a ride to pick up his Porsche in my Dodge Neon.
No, I was going to ask what car you were driving.
Yeah, and
That's very fitting.
And he's like, you know, my Porsche, it was on Mulholland Drive, and he's just like, you know, my Porsche handles these roads much better. I'm just like, yeah, of course it does. It's a freaking Porsche. I'm driving a 2004 Dodge Neon because you pay me peanuts. Like, pay me Porsche money, and I'll come out with a Porsche and I'll drive you wherever you want. It was really little lines like that. It's like, how are you so tone deaf? Like, he's not stupid, but like, he just purposefully says ignorant things. But he's doing well now. He's doing really well. He just had a second season of a show announced. Yeah, I was just bad at it. And like when he fired me, it was like a gift. I felt like 1,000 pounds had been lifted off my shoulders, because you know, you cling to this idea that you need a job and you need income, and you go to this job that sucks, and like, you don't even want to be there. And man, my only regret is that he didn't fire me earlier in the day, so I had more time to go off. And then I remember that night, I went off and saw Joel McHale do stand up with my then girlfriend. Yeah. And I was having the best time, even though I was broke and unemployed, funemployed. You know, it's just, don't stay in a job that sucks because you need the money. If you can. I know people have families,
Yeah.
and obligations and stuff, but like, if at all, just go try something else.
Do you feel like that was your rite of passage? Because I feel like at some point it's everyone kind of needs to go through like their suck phase.
Oh my gosh, I've had so many suck phases. Okay, so I was doing after I got after my second master's program, it was dual master's program in public relations, international relations, public diplomacy, Syracuse University. Email me on LinkedIn. I'll talk to you about that one too. I got an internship at Voice of America, and it was that I found out that it was not at Voice of America. It was at the Broadcasting Board of Governors, which, you know, I think it's called something else now. It was the lamest job I've ever had. It was so hard to like show up every day to like people who, you know, God bless them. They love their job. They love public affairs, and they love, you know, being the voice for the Broadcasting Board of Governors, which just sounds boring. But I remember being in DC, I was on the metro through, you know, on the yellow line somewhere. I was on my way to the building, and I thought to myself, oh, this sucks. It's so hot. I hate this. And I look over, and there's a guy wearing shorts and a t-shirt. He's not even a tourist. Like, he lived there, and he was just doing nothing in the middle of the day. And I was like, why can't I be that guy? I just not necessarily do nothing, but I certainly don't want to be here. And so I just quit. I just quit the internship, even though I needed it for my degree. And I called a buddy of mine who was working in DC doing something else. And I was like, can I just be an intern for you for like a couple weeks? He's like, Yeah. I was like, yeah, all you got to do is report it to my school. He's like, yeah, come on, I'll show you some stuff. And I got to do some really cool work, some really important stuff. And it was just different because I got sick of being wearing a suit in the heat to go to some place I hate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a suck phase. Absolutely. So I guess maybe there are just suck phases for everything you try to do.
Yeah.
Maybe there's just a rite of passage for every career that you've ever tried to make for yourself. I don't know, but like, yeah, I've definitely seen them. I know what you're talking about.
So when you were in DC, was this when you worked at the White House or?
No, no, no. I always do everything twice. It seems like.
That's great because that means you have to do my podcast
Right.
twice.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back in a year and I'll tell you
Yeah.
how my job is.
It's going fine, Martin.
Yeah. I picked up smoking again. Yeah, no, no. So no, I was at the White House in 2009 to 2011, and that's when I decided to actually switch careers and go get master's degrees in international relations. I wanted to go out and, I thought about joining the Foreign Service. I passed. It's a 3-part test, and the third part has 3 parts. And I passed, 98% of it. I didn't pass the personal interview for the Foreign Service. They called me unprofessional.
Is it because you said you're a Bengals fan?
No,
You're a low,
no,
dirty Bengals fan or whatever.
Right. Low life. Yeah.
Yeah, low life.
I'm a low life Bengals fan. No, I don't know actually what it is. It's just you get a packet and they tell you where you went wrong. And like, you're like, oh, the 3 Foreign Service officers that interviewed you found you to be slightly unprofessional. And I'm like, well, I'm here for public diplomacy. So I'm like, fun is kind of the name of the game, but whatever. They didn't want me. It's fine. I'm not bitter about it. Um, yeah, no, I was there 2013 to finish my internship. Like I only had to do it for like 2 or 3 months, and I couldn't because it was just so miserable. Like it was not a lifestyle that was for me. The DC commuting lifestyle is just not for me. And more power to everyone who does it, loves to do it, does it every day. I respect it so much because to me it was so hard.
Yeah. No, just for work, I've been out there quite a bit. It's just like
We all have.
it's cool, like the city itself, because there's a lot to offer and see. But to drive in that traffic every single day, and my sister lived there. Her husband worked at the Pentagon. They lived 8 miles from the Pentagon, but it would take him over an hour to get to work. And it's just like
It's a grind, man. And again, a lot of veterans do it, and a lot of civilians do it, and so necessary. As we're finding out when government gets cut like it has been. The good part about the Doge cuts is that you're seeing how essential some people really are. We always complain about how bloated the federal government is, but turns out it's that way for a reason.
I kind of want to take a little bit of a sharp turn on the let's call it the 675 like exit, right? So all this kind of led to you becoming the editor-in-chief of We Are the Mighty, tons of articles associated with the website. What, in your estimation, like what do you think is the most important writer quality?
To be a writer?
Yeah. Or no, like, or just whether to be a writer or just be, or even like, what's the difference between good writers and great writers?
I mean, there are all kinds of different writers. Like I mentioned my colleagues at military.com. They can turn around a story very fast, and they get sources, and to them, it's more than writing. It's cultivating basically an intelligence network to be somebody who can get information and then convey it clearly in a way that makes sense and that people reading it can understand what the stakes are. And that is a really important kind of writing that I am not capable of. I do deal in facts, but I am more of a creative writer. I think my strength is helping people understand complex subjects or complex items or pieces of military equipment, complex events like history and how it affects you today. I am very good at that. But if you were just to be a pure creative writer, I think pure creative writing where you conjure the story yourself, everything comes from your brain. I think that is something that requires life experience. And I think that's one of my strengths is that I've had so much life experience that if I, if I do need to draw on my life experience for what I do, is like, I have a lot to draw on. But if you're going to go out and write some kind of fiction novel, or partially fiction, if you're uncomfortable writing your actual life story, having real life experiences and meeting a lot of people and talking to a lot of people, I think that is probably the best way to start being a writer, because the technical part of writing, you can learn the inverted pyramid, or, I was talking earlier about the fifth grade template for
Yeah.
how you're supposed to write. You can learn that stuff. You can read Stephen King's On Writing. You can read, Sin and Syntax. You can get Grammarly. You could do all sorts of things for the technical part. But being interesting and having something to say, that's, that's where the hard part comes in. Having a perspective, having a unique point of view. Are you funny? Are you insightful? Are you inspirational? Like, you and I can write the same story, but it's going to come from two different ways. Chances are it's going to be sarcastic and funny coming from me. From you, it might be something totally different.
It would probably be sarcastic and like same thing. But I think to your credit, like that's where we talked about this earlier, where your sarcasm, but it hooks people in a good way, and it's also authentic. And I think it's the same thing. I know you're, being in the military, we always hear like the military answer, or like the political answers, and it's like, man, that's not people. People are smart enough to see right through that. But I think with you, there's again just authenticity.
Well, it doesn't have to be sarcasm that hooks people. It can be something pithy or folksy, or like something
Yeah.
where you connect somebody and you let them know, like, hey, you're not the first person to be wondering this. Or you're not the first person to be going through this. Yeah, I'm going to connect you through like a one sentence to something that happened in the past, to make you realize, like, history repeats itself. You're not alone. It can be anything that hooks people.
Sorry. No, so and even going back to your time with military.com, that was one of the things you did a great job of just connecting people, connection instead of sarcasm or like hooks, connection's the right word. I think to your ability to connect and resonate with people. But I loved all the stuff you did with like, here's all the veteran programs. Let me break it down for you, like these because there's a ton of programs out there, but it can be overwhelming. And it's like, okay, like here's here's Blake's blueprint to break it down, and it's just it's digestible, and but it takes a lot of care from the person to actually go through that to organize that.
So that's my serious era. Like when I first got on a military.com, I was hired to reinvigorate the veteran jobs vertical, and to me, veteran jobs isn't just about finding jobs. It's finding employment, education, and entrepreneurship, because starting a business is employment. And so I thought that, incorporating all those three into that vertical and making it in a way that military people understood was what they essentially wanted from me. Because I'm a military, I came of age in the military, and I have, the mindset that a lot of young military people have, which is just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, put it in a bullet point, put it in a list. Don't like hide it in a bunch of paragraphs that I don't care about. Just show me what to do and do it. And so like, that's what I would do. Like, if you want to be an electrician, here's how to be an electrician. You apply here. This is what you'll get. This is what they give you. Here's the timeline. This is how much money you'll make. Start here. But also, there's a responsibility with that. Because a lot of, as we learned from the early 2000s with the, the online degree era, not everyone is a good actor. So you have to like really vet these programs and find out, like, is this good for the veteran? Is this program just trying to steal their GI Bill? So for me, I would like, if I was going to cover something back then, and I would still do it now, but that's not my main beat anymore. But like, is it good for the veteran? Will it lead to a job? Does it have job placement? Do they require a GI Bill? Is it free? Like, I had all these boxes to check, and if you checked all those boxes, I would write about it every year. Like, I love that stuff. Your unions, They always have programs for free because they need people with skilled trades. Nonprofits, same thing. There's something called Workshops for Warriors that'll teach you skilled trades. Um, you know, and I've had individuals reach out to me on LinkedIn saying, "Well, I want to be an airline pilot. Is there something for that?" And I said, "Yeah, here you go. I'll find it for you." Or somebody wanted to be a chemist and how to go to school for chemists, so you find that for them. And I have helped individuals just because I know where to look for all these things, and I think now mentorship is also really big. And I think that the military personnel separating have seen a lot of success from mentorship programs. But again, is it free? Does it lead to successful outcomes? How does this company or nonprofit make money? Those are the things you have to ask before I would share it with my readers.
So I think all this kind of culminates again to your present position, and I think where I was getting at is you've really you've become excellent or excelling at storytelling.
Thanks.
Right. And there's a lot of things that lead, and there's a lot of different ingredients that make a great storyteller. But I think that's where I was trying to get to.
You question that every day, by the way. Like, am I actually a good storyteller? Should I be doing this job?
Do you do that in the mirror?
No, I do it every time I look at the blank page. The hardest thing about being a writer is that blank page.
But all your experiences, to include like your time as a combat videographer, how has that influenced and shaped your approach to storytelling?
Oh, well, storytelling, oh gosh, you're talking about like 25 years of evolution. I think about a lot of little things when I think about storytelling. The guy who got me my first job at HBO, he actually told me he was actually a major in my unit. He was a reserve major in the 1st Combat Camera Squad. His name's Jim Fabio. He works for NFL Films. He does incredible work. But he told me that there's a hierarchy of things that people like to see. Like when I was just first young airman, he's like, it's people's faces, and then just people, and then maybe there's explosions, and then vehicles, and like, so you always want to see people's faces first, and that's like a visual storytelling thing. And then a guy named Gary Burdett, who now lives in Columbus, when I was a young airman, he would be reviewing my footage, and I would have like this picture, like this static picture of something in my storyline, and he'd stop it. He'd be like, "That's a rock shot." I'd be like, "That's not a rock. What are you talking about? That's a tire or something." He's like, "No, that's a rock shot. Nothing's happening. It's just weighing down your video like a rock." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so they say these pithy things, and you're like, "Oh, that's sticky. That's sticky." Yeah. And as far as like being a writer, it's been a little bit more fast paced, and now I'm older, so I'm less impressionable. So I don't really remember exactly what was said. But I do remember, when I first started We Are the Mighty, Paul Zolder was all about banging headline, awesome photo. That's how you stop the scroll on social media. I was like, okay. So I remember that, I still do that. As the grabber, we talked about the hook. I learned that from my 5th grade teacher. Miss Clark, bless her. I wonder what happened. But yeah, so
She's a Hollywood assistant.
yeah, probably, right? She could be. But yeah, so like for me, it's not like there's like a certain approach to storytelling. I think that people do love to hear stories about other people first. So, that's kind of like the visual equivalent to the face shot. And then if you're talking about something technical, I mean, like you want to write something that's worthy of being read. If you're talking about something technical, you can't just write a bunch of technical jargon. You have to like make it interesting. You have to tell somebody why this is cool. And there's an approach that we used at We Are the Mighty. My buddy Logan called it the laid back professor, but I always thought of it more as like, I'm your pal, and I'm here to tell you about this awesome thing I saw, and I really want you to know about it. So, it's got tail fins, and the tail fins make it do this, and the rocket part of it makes it do this, and you just go through the whole thing as if you were just excited to tell somebody about it. Of course, you have to be like a little bit smarter when you're writing about it, but that's essentially what you're doing. It's no different. Like when you write about somebody's Medal of Honor story, it can't just be he did this and then he did this and then he did that. I mean, like I remember my favorite Medal of Honor story is a guy named Peter Lemon. He smoked a joint and that he woke up in the middle of a Viet Cong assault, and like he fought it off while totally stoned. And you can't just like be like, oh, well, Peter Lemon woke up to the sound of the bombs and he ran in and he did this and he did that. It's like, no, Peter Lemon got off of a hard shift the day before and he went to sleep after smoking a joint and he was still high when they attacked. And like, you know, this is the personal, relatable details. Like I can't put myself in the shoes of somebody who's about to receive the Medal of Honor for fighting in Vietnam. But like, I've been stoned before. I know what that's like. And I certainly can't imagine fighting off the Viet Cong while stoned. Like, that's insane. But I feel like if I'm feeling that way, someone else is going to feel that way too. Because, you know, most of America has been high at some point. I'm not saying anything revolutionary, but like most of America would balk at the idea of like, okay, now go fight the Viet Cong. I can't even walk.
I love that. Like I love this because there's a note that I wrote about you from my notes section, and specifically, and this is something you mentioned in the past podcast, is my note about you is loves to find interesting point of views to bring out the whole story. So with that in mind, how much of story is powered by emotion and feeling?
I mean, all stories are emotion and feeling. If you have a story without emotion, then you're never raising the stakes. Like, why am I reading it?
Yeah.
One of my favorite professors at Syracuse during my television and film career era.
Was this Michael Schoonmaker?
No, her name is Tula Gwenka. She's the nicest, sweetest woman ever on the planet. But she used to devastate her sophomore students with they would bring in these films that they made, and she would just lean back and be like, why do I care? Like, and you stop and just like, why? And I would watch these films and I would think that some of them are really cool. Some of them were kind of interesting. I was drawn into some of them, but then I start thinking about like, why do I care?
Yeah.
I don't care about these people at all. Like nothing about your story has drawn me to attach me to these people. And that to me is a devastating question for a writer, for any creative, is like, why do I care about this thing?
Yeah.
And ask yourself that. You can do it for Hollywood movies. Like the last movie I saw was that one. It's terrible. I can't remember the name offhand, but
Who's in it?
it was about the vampires in the South. They were having this party. Geez, you have to cut this part out. But like any movie that you see in the theater, you can just immediately ask yourself, like, why do I care? And if you don't like it, you're probably going to find why you don't care with that question. If you love it, it's going to be really easy to find why you care. And that's the same with writing an article. You know, I have sat back and spent hours writing an article and just looked at it and been like, I don't care about this at all. Like, I have missed the mark. So I write for Together We Served, the veteran social media networking site as well. And every month I write 5 stories for the Dispatches newsletter. It's very interesting. If you're a veteran, Together We Served is a really innovative kind of social media. All you have to do is put in your unit and the time frame you were at that unit, and for every unit you have, you fill out your profile, and it will automatically like tell you who else was in the unit at that time.
Oh wow!
Yeah, who's on the site? Yeah, check it out. It's a great site. It's a great way to reconnect with your pals. But yeah, so I write this, and I remember one month, I wrote all 5 articles, and I looked at them, and I was just like, I don't care about any of these. Like I failed this in some way because I didn't make it personal at all. I mean, it's why some people hate history class, because your professor gets up there and is like, yeah, in 1856 this happened and it led to the Civil War. in 1861, and you know, General McClellan did this, and Winfield Scott did that, and you're just like, this sucks. That's awful for me too, and I love history, but like, you know, I had a history teacher in 7th grade named Mr. Pfeiffer, who was super excited about history, and he would be like, Winfield Scott created the Anaconda Plan, and what it was a plan that the Union was going to strangle the South by cutting it in two. Like, he made the stakes dramatic, but first they had to take Vicksburg and New Orleans, which would give them control of the Mississippi River. And to do that, they lost thousands of people. But in 1863, Grant captured Vicksburg, and in 1863, just days later, they won at Gettysburg, and that turned the tide of the whole war for the North. And you're like, oh, wow, well, I remember that. They won 2 major battles at the same time while strangling the South. Like, the strangling part is, you know, that gets your attention. And I said, Winfield Scott, you know, Anaconda Plan. Like, these things are not something that you would remember in a list, but if you put them in a narrative, and there's science behind this. Like, stories activate the part of your brain that like does drugs. Like, it is drugs for your brain. People are programmed to love stories. And if you tell, and this is why history podcasts are big, but history class sucks, is because people love these stories. The stakes are high. There's life and death and great heroes and evil villains and yada, yada, yada. But if you tell me and make me read a history book, I'm out. But like, let me watch it on Netflix, and then I'm in.
I just want to give you a shout out and kudos for the Winfield Scott reference. I mean, that's not a name you hear often.
I mean, this is what I do, man.
I mean, that's like, man, that's a deep cut.
You find a nugget and then you draw it out.
That's like a golden nugget. Winfield Scott, man, like, good for you.
So when you're looking through history books and you find this little name, like most of the time when you're reading big history, big man history, you'll find like a little aside. Like, oh, this guy did. George Henry Thomas, he was critical at the Battle of Chickamauga, right?
I did a podcast about Crispus Attucks.
Yo, but hold on, like you find out this guy, George Henry Thomas, he was very important at the Battle of Chickamauga, which was a Union loss, but he was called the Rock of Chickamauga. And then, so you just gloss over that in the Civil War, and then you go on to the next thing in history class. But if you do a deep dive, and this is to answer your question about drawing out the nugget. If you do a deep dive on George Henry Thomas, you figure out that he's the only undefeated general in the Civil War, the whole Civil War. Never lost a battle. And you're like, why not? Why don't I know about this dude? Well, it's because he wasn't like a grandstander. He never wrote like his own biography. He didn't like get up and tout how great he was. He didn't, run for president. He just like quietly kicked ass in the Civil War. Like, that was his job. And so, like, you know, then you have an article that you want to tell people about. I was excited to tell people about George Henry Thomas, the only general that never lost a battle. Like, that's pretty amazing. Or like, you're just scrolling through online one time and I just found this statistical analysis of the best generals in history, like by math. I'm just like, what? And when I found out like where he, like his whole rationale, and I was like, well, I'm not smart enough to do math, but I'm going to take this guy at his word. And so you just explain in simpler terms what he explains on his website, and it's a top 10 list. It's easy. By the way, it's Napoleon. It's Napoleon by far. Like, no one's even close. Like, Napoleon is just the best general of all time. But yeah, so you find these interesting things, and if you're thinking in terms of being a writer who pumps out, 500 to 1,000 words every day, for one job. I freelanced, so there are times where I've written like tens of thousands of words. But yeah, you start like looking for the nugget, like, oh, this might be something interesting. No.
Want to transition, take that to transition to some wider questions. These are no rhyme or reason, but I do
round robin.
So I'm interested. I love history as well. Mm-hmm. So on that note, with everything you just said, if you could hire any historical figure, past or present, to be a writer for We Are the Mighty, or to write an article for We Are the Mighty, who would it be?
Hemingway.
Okay.
I mean, if you talk about, having experience to be a writer, I mean, it's Hemingway. All of his books are about himself. I mean, and they're all true. Like that's the crazy part. Even when they're depressing, like he's very honest. Like they're exciting and depressing and interesting and fun. And I love reading Hemingway, where the book takes place. That's probably one of my favorite writers. But yeah, I think Hemingway is an easy answer, or Kurt Vonnegut. But
Okay.
Vonnegut would be more of a, he's a sci-fi guy. But he was very folksy and very down to earth, and he made everything very relatable. Also a veteran, so a very unique point of view as a veteran too.
You could add George Henry Thomas, and the article could be titled "The Goat."
And now I don't know.
No, I'm
No, yeah, yeah. He was the goat, at least for the Civil War. Yeah.
if there was when you think of a movie image that depicts leadership, and it doesn't have to be a military movie, who or what comes to mind?
It's so funny. This is going to be embarrassing, especially because this is going to go online for everyone to hear. There is a charming pre 9/11 movie called Dave. It stars Kevin Kline and Sigourney Weaver, and it's about a regular guy who helps. Like his job is an employment agency in DC, but he highlights impersonating the president because he looks exactly like the president.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it becomes familiar to people after a while. But so like he gets hired to impersonate the president so the president can go have an affair, because in the 90s, that was the worst thing that could happen to the president and the country, apparently. But yeah, so when the president has a stroke, Dave takes over as president, and he kind of you kind of get this view of what it would be like if the everyman ran the country, and his ideas was he comes from a place of finding people jobs, and there's dignity in work, and so he puts what he knows into practice as in the highest office of the land. And to me, I mean, it's just obvious. Like that's what you should be doing if you have the power to help people in your specific niche where you are, then you probably should be doing that. That's a great call to action. And so that's my fictional leadership. As far as like real life leadership, there a captain in my old unit, First Combat Camera Squadron, name's Mindy Yu, and she was like the best officer anyone could ever have. She admitted when she didn't know everything. She would always try to find you answers. She was there for you when you needed her, whether it was personally or professionally. But like there was always the level of respect. She was there for me personally when I need her, but like it never really crossed a line to where I saw her purely as a friend. Like she was always Captain You. I actually to this day, I'm like cringing when I call her Mindy, because like the airman in me is just like, no, don't do that. And she's not even captain anymore. She's like a colonel now. Yeah. But yeah, she's one of the best leaders I've ever, and I'm always tried to be able to emulate that as best I could. I mean, this is my first time as a leader, and I don't lead anybody except a bunch of contributors. So I'll let you know in our a year from now, how that's going. But yeah, that's what I think of when I think of great leadership.
Awesome. All right, I want to do a name game. I'm just going to say a couple names. Just say one word or two words that come to mind.
Sure.
And some of them you actually brought up organically in the episode. But David Gale.
Oh, good human.
Okay.
Just a couple words.
Yeah.
Good human, fun guy, visionary. I mean, the guy made Pootie Tang, and he's really, really funny about it. Like yeah, he's one of my favorite people ever.
That's awesome. Mark Harper.
He's a close friend. He's a good friend. He's it's hard. He's like, he's my boss for a while, early boss, drinking buddy. Yeah, he's, there aren't words for some people, it's hard to really like pigeonhole that.
No, that's good. Professor Michael, I think I'm saying the last name correctly, Schoonmaker.
Scooney, yeah. Generous, thoughtful, funny, brilliant. The guy, yeah, this is more than a couple words, but when I was leaving the military, I was struggling. Like, I just got back from Iraq the previous year. My fiance left me. The house had burned down. My brother died, and it was all in the span of 4 months. And I was due to re-enlist in August, and I had no idea what I was going to do if I didn't re-enlist. And I was like, well, maybe I can go back to Syracuse, because I did a special year at Syracuse learning broadcast journalism. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just go there and get a master's degree and figure it out later. And but then I looked at I didn't really actually know when to apply to college. So this was like in June of 2007. And I was supposed to have my application by February. And I was like, oh man. But because I had been there before as a military student, I knew people. And so I just called Professor Schoonmaker and I was like, hey, so I know what I was supposed to do, but this is where I'm at. And I either have to re-enlist or, leave the military, and I don't want to, I'm not okay. And I want to like put my energy into something constructive. He's like, okay, well, here's what I'll do. You take the GRE, you apply like normal, get 3 letters of recommendations, and we'll see where we're at. I had like a week and a half to do the GRE. And that is not an easy test, especially the math part. And I got a tutor and I crammed like I've never crammed before. And I got a 330 on the GRE quantitative part. And that is abysmal. If you don't know, this is back in 2006, but it's terrible. And I called him up and I was like, Professor Schoonmaker, I didn't do so hot. He's like, what'd you get? I was like, 330. He's like, what was your verbal? And I told him, oh, it was 550. He's like, great, you're in. And I got out of the military early. I did all the paperwork necessary for that. I left my new apartment, and drove up to Syracuse and started grad school about, I want to say it was like a month after I'd first called it.
Wow.
Yeah. And he made it happen. Like he pushed everything through to make it happen because I said I was in a bad spot. That man is a saint to me. Like he's a hero.
Love it. So saint and hero are the words.
Yeah.
Last couple names, JT Locke.
Oh, Jesus. The combat cameraman's combat cameraman. Like, you ever see the other guys?
Of course.
And, Samuel L. Jackson
And
in
The Rock. Yeah.
That when I'm like thinking about combat cameraman, I'm Will Ferrell in that movie, and JT Locke is Samuel L. Jackson and The Rock. Like, barring their end. Don't want to spoil anything, but like, yeah, they're the awesome guys like you wanted to be. Like, I looked up to him. I admired him. If you go look at his portfolio, you get why. And then he married a TV star.
Yeah.
Like that is like, yeah. Who was the last airman to do that? Robin Olds was. And, Robin Olds had the mustache, but JT Locke has the portfolio. It's crazy.
Love the other guy's reference.
Yeah.
All right, last two names, Sebastian Younger.
When I interviewed him, I was like in awe. Like that is, basically a guy who didn't have to do all this stuff that we did in the military, was out there doing it because he wanted to tell that story.
Yeah.
And he did it better than anyone ever. And then he wrote books about it, and the books are poignant too. You had Restrepo, and you had Tribes, and you had everything he's ever done. And to talk to him, I didn't even know where to begin. So overwhelmed, I think, is the answer.
Nice. Last one, President Rodrigo Duterte. I think I'm saying that right.
Duterte.
Yeah, Duterte, yeah.
Well, he's out of power now, so I'm not quite as worried. So if for anyone who doesn't know, when I first started writing, we used to just write whatever and just throw it up against the wall to see what would stick. And I wrote a listicle called The 10 Worst Armies in the World. And it was based on nothing except like if I could find a little factoid and make fun of it, like that's all. I was just making fun of stuff because I didn't know what I was doing. I was learning how to be a writer. Oh, and I put the Philippines on the list. I don't remember where they were, but it was they were on the list. And the reason I put them on the list was because they're an island country with like hundreds of islands, but their navy was like two Coast Guard cutters, two old U.S. Coast Guard cutters converted. And I was like, that's good enough for me. And then it ended up in the Philippine press. Like it ended up in the Manila newspaper, and they started like, I got death threats on Facebook over it. And I was like, I had no idea they would get so mad. I had no idea they would read it. And then, a couple of years later, there was an article about the Philippines had invested billions of dollars into their navy. And, I don't know if he was throwing shade at me, but President Duterte made a statement that said, they used to call us one of the worst navies, but now we're one of the best. And I was like, is that about me? Did the president of the Philippines just throw shade at me? Like 3 years later, like 3, 4 years later, I was blown away because like you write for it's not the New York Times. I know who I am. I'm not writing for the New York Times, especially back then when we were happy with like getting 30,000 views a month. But one of them was the president of the Philippines. Get out of here. That's crazy.
That's a great story.
Yeah, I can't confirm that, but like it seemed really heavily in that direction.
I love it. Last two questions. If there's a giant billboard with your picture on it for the world to see, what would you want your billboard to say, and where would you want it to be located? And
gosh.
everyone has to see and read it.
I think probably say I'm doing my best, man. Cut me some slack. Where would it be? I don't know. It probably, I don't know. I can't think of anywhere where a picture of me would be consequential. Maybe my hometown. I'm starting a bar in Springfield, Ohio.
Are you?
Yeah, a couple of friends of mine.
Is that where you live now?
No, I live in Dayton, but I grew up in Springfield, and it's always been very important to me to try to, help my hometown. I mean, who doesn't want to do that?
They have a OHATCH or something there or something.
Cohatch is a great place, but Springfield. If I don't know who lives in Ohio and is listening to this, but Springfield is a poppin' town. Hi Hat Social, new restaurant, State Theater, new bar. But all the old stuff that is there is still good. Downtown is really come a long way since I was a kid. And I really wanted to be part of that, so I invested in an arcade bar that makes craft cocktails.
Nice.
And we're under construction right now. We hope to open by the end of September.
Man, I'll be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, again, call me in a year, and we'll talk about how that's going. It's but it's fun. Plus, I spent so much time, talking about veteran entrepreneurs and learning about their struggles. And everything's right. Everything costs too much money, and it takes more time than you think it's going to. And, everyone is rooting for you, whether they can help you out with money or not. They really want you to succeed, and you feel it, and it's a good feeling. So I put it. There is actually an open billboard space next to what's going to be my bar, so I would put it there and just remind people, like, hey, I'm doing the best I can. Give me a break.
Love it. Last question is, if you could, what one piece of wisdom would you pass on to the next generation of people to help them light their own torch and carry it forward?
Oh, jeez. Offhand? I don't know. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Dude, I love that quote, and I use that quote. I tell myself that all the time.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's great.
Earlier this year, I took a hiatus from social media, and I don't really compare myself to other people, but just not having it in my face all the time was a boon to my mental health, and it was great. Would do it again if I could, but I can't. I'm the editor-in-chief of a website now. But that is true. I mean, even with somebody like I've been to like 70 different countries at least. One of them is North Korea,
Yeah.
Cuba. Like I've been to places other people haven't. And, you know, I have degrees and I'm in good health and I have a great job and make decent money. I got nothing to prove to anybody, right? But even me, you know, you see people on there and it's like, well, I want to be them. Do you? Because like they have their own problem.
Yeah.
So if I was telling anybody, you know, coming up as a writer or as anything, getting out of the military, whatever, just pay attention to yourself. Like your own path is you're the only one who has to live your life. You know, make sure that's the life that you want to live. Don't compare to somebody else just because they're temporarily doing something more fun than you might be doing at that moment. The game's a long one,
Yeah.
and as long as you're still in the game, it can be anything you want.
Blake, thank you so much. Do you have any parting thoughts, parting shots, or anything that you want to put out there?
I wish I had prepared better.
No, you prepared great, man. This is amazing.
No, parting shots. No, this is. I hope that people who listen to this walk away with the sense that they can do whatever they want, even if they fall into it accidentally. I feel like a lot of us fall into our careers accidentally, and you know that's not really the worst thing in the world.
No, how can I best serve you? Like, what can I do for you?
What can you do for me?
Yeah.
I don't know, color correct that video, I guess. Like I did not sleep well last night.
Stop.
No, no, nothing. I'm good.
Dude,
I have no real problems in the world, man.
I appreciate you coming on my podcast. This means a lot to me, man. So
Anytime.
yeah, man. Thank you. I actually want to give you a personal coin. So
Very cool. Let
yeah,
me see
man.
that.
It's nothing glamorous, man. It's nothing like what other people are.
Hey, no,
People,
it's
and the MF may or may not stand for Martin Foster, so it could stand for use your imagination, right? So
no, that's good. That's
you
that's
know,
really good.
for MF excellence.
I think my last Chiefs coin was from Chief Roy. Patrick
Oh, no
Roy.
kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how long ago it was.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't get a lot of coins.
no, but dude, like, thanks again for this, man. I really appreciate it.
It's been fun. This is great. Yeah, have me on in a year from now. We'll talk.
Yeah,
we'll,
for sure.
We'll catch up.